Hi, everyone. Welcome today. I'm Matt Tonkin, and I'm here today with Terry Frey, who is BigRoad's CEO and co-founder. Hi, Terry. How you doing?
Hello.
So today we have a webinar for you entitled ELD: The Path to Compliance. And this is a webinar we've done in a variety of ways in the past, just talking about the ELD mandate and how it's going to affect everyone in the trucking industry. This particular iteration is follow up from a seminar Terry did at the Mid America Truck Show in Louisville, Kentucky, a few weeks ago. So it really helped answer a lot of questions for people there, and we want to be sure that everyone had the opportunity to listen to it. Just some housekeeping notes. You do have the ability to ask questions within the panel that you're watching the webinar on. So if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them. We do have a short limit of time, so we almost certainly won't get to all the questions because we did have a pretty big list of them come in beforehand as well. But what we normally do in that situation is we'll take all the questions, we'll look into them as best we can, and we'll answer them, and we'll actually post a blog that answers those questions, as well as contains a video recording of the webinar. So if there's someone you know who you think would get a lot out of this, you can direct them to that. Once we have that posted, you'll receive an email about that. So without any further ado, Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I hope everyone enjoys this.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you for everyone for joining us. It looks like we still have people joining here, so I'll talk a little slower at the beginning, but we will kick off. Matt did mention we were just at the Mid America Truck Show. For those of you that I met there, it was awesome. We really enjoyed it. I thought the representation from all of the different types of vendors to the Mid America Truck Show was fantastic, and there was a lot of real good insight and discussions around technology that's being used by trucking today. Specifically, there was a lot of discussion around electronic logging devices. The session we ran is what I'm going to go through here now, and was really focused on, hey, I'm a trucking company, and I hear about this thing called electronic logging device, or ELD, and I really don't know what it is or what it means. So our intent today is to answer that question for this audience. What is an ELD? What does it mean to me? And do I have to do it? And if I have to do it, when do I have to do it by? And hopefully answer any of your questions as we're going along. So I wanted to start with just a little about BigRoad and who we are. So BigRoad was established in late 2011. So we've been, we're in our 5th year of operation. And our goal back when we started BigRoad was to build a software-based solution that would work on standard off-the-shelf phones and cabs of trucks that drivers already had that would help fleets operate more efficiently. Really, the idea is and was and is to provide the tools to smaller fleets, 3 trucks, 10 trucks, 20 trucks, to provide that technology at a different cost model than what's available with proprietary type solutions were available at that time in cabs of truck. And solutions available so that you, the smaller fleet, could really operate efficiently and with the same tools and technology as very large fleets. And so we launched with our business idea back then. We built BigRoad First Products, which was an Android-based smartphone device that was really focused on with a lot of strengths, focusing on hours of service and collecting all of the information that a driver would need to collect and report on from a paper standpoint on a daily basis. And we moved that to their smartphone. We made it available in the Android Play Store. And sure enough, a lot of drivers of trucks were very interested in this. And so we made improvements on it, talked to those drivers, and made more improvements on it, and built a very robust in-cab solution that drivers could use. And then we basically said, let's build a nice back end so that the fleets that these drivers are driving for, whether it's an owner-operator fleet or a fleet of any size, that all of that information is collected, consolidated, and available for the operator or the owner of the fleet in case the DOT comes in or the FMCSA and is doing an audit, or you just want to take a look at your operation and how do you improve on it. Okay, so Since that point in time, we had 0 users. Today, fast forward to 2016, where we are today, we currently work with more than 25,000 fleets. We currently work with more than 70,000 drivers on a daily basis, on a regular basis, and are growing significantly because the fleets that use us and the drivers really like working with BigRoad. I'm not going to spend too much time on BigRoad, but I just want to let you know that's where we are. We're real good in terms of acting as the fleet compliance, officer, if you want to call it, for small fleet trucking. Moving on. So what we're going to do today is really provide you a good understanding of electronic logs and what this ELD mandate means to you. Proceed. So somewhat complex when you take a look at all of the different acronyms that exist with this idea of electronic logs. And I think one thing for sure, everybody on this call and when I'm talking at different public settings understands what paper logs do. We all use them. We all understand them very well. The very first thing we'll talk about here is electronic logbook. And really, if you look at an electronic logbook, it is paper. It's a paper logbook just moved to your smartphone or to your tablet. It operates and functions the exact same way in that it doesn't connect to the engine, but it does record your duty status instead of the driver doing it. The device does it. It does use the GPS location. The detection for driving is automatic or optional. What that means is you can make that a selection. If you would so choose to say, I'm going to move the records of duty status change, I can. The editability is paper. So again, when you're using electronic logbook, it's similar to paper. It's just a lot of the work is taken out of it that the driver has to do in terms of entering those duty status changes, city locations, mileages, vehicle information, etc. They do always record a graph, so that is very visible to the driver and to a roadside inspection. And it's common, so that everybody can see what that would, it's common to the paper logbook. It looks like a paper logbook. And all you need to do that is a phone or a tablet with nothing connected to your engine. So that's an electronic logbook. Those have been in existence, have been used in cabs of truck now for, well over 4 years. The next thing we're going to talk about is the yellow area, which is the electronic onboard recorder, and or EOBR. We all heard that for a while. And this is when you move to, I'm now connected to the engine. The main thing here to look at is that there's a lot less flexibility in your ability to, less flexibility in the changing of duty statuses. So you are connected to the engine, record of duty status changes is automatic. GPS location here is optional though, but it will automatically detect driving. The editability really is selectable only when you're non-driving. You can move the duty status selector. And here, though, your supervisor will be doing the edits. Okay, what that means is if there's a mistake or something wrong with the log, you will be required to do that with your supervisor. Okay, tamper-resistant for sure, and again, similarly, the log is automatically generated as expected. The main thing here is it's proprietary, so all of them will look different, meaning they're not going to work on your smartphone or your tablet, and you're going to have some bolted-in device in the cab of the truck or coach. Going to the next one, the green area, AOBRD. This is the more common used platform today, automatic onboard recording device. The main difference here, when you look down the list, is this is by the way, is also known as 395.15, if you're wondering. And the main difference here is you can now use non-proprietary solutions as well. So you're including things like phones and tablets to the solution, but they are engine connected as well and have the same editability as the previous discussion. Now, let's talk about what ELD means, and that's the blue area of the electronic logging device. The main difference here is the GPS becomes very relevant in how the applications and logs are created. So the GPS is required in this case. The other key things to this is the driver is the one that can edit the logs, just like paper, but all originals are preserved. So that means if there's 2 edits to a log, the original versions are preserved and visible. And the other key thing with ELD is, again, the non-editability or the non-tamper resistant. Okay, so again, what we're looking at is ELD, which will be the single platform moving forward, or single way that you'll be doing, that you'll be able to do logs, create logs in the future of your driver or driver's activities. Okay, so electronic logbooks, EOBR, AOBRD will all go away, and they will all be moving to what's called ELD, electronic logging device. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that in the coming slides. We can move on. So first, before we get into some more detail, though, let's just talk about what the benefits are, the pros and the cons of the different types, viewed by trucking companies. Okay, so this isn't my idea, but when we talk to many different trucking fleets or drivers, what do they like about the different approaches? You know, the benefits or the pros to paper are that editability, and not that that happens. Yeah, not that it happens, but the editability of those paper logs is the pro, is that there's a mistake that can quickly be fixed with an eraser, and you know, a ruler will draw a new line and it's good to go. So that editability is there. The other key thing is change is not thing most people like. So the familiarity with paper logs is good. People like paper logs, and change is not good. And so changing from anything is a difficult thing. The con or negative to paper logs are, in talking to fleets, are the messiness. I mean, there are some drivers who are very neat and can create great logs, but I think they're more the exception than the norm. And the penmanship issue comes into a messy created log that needs to be deciphered by whoever's collecting these back at the corporate office or the trucking office. Error prone. For those of you who've tried to and worked with paper logs yourself, they're somewhat difficult in terms of the calculations and keeping everything straight. So there is a ability to introduce errors. It just happens. And the next part is time consuming. And there's a lot of time that's actually required to start the actual paper logbook through the day, make sure you're up with it throughout the day, and complete that log at the end of the day. And that's when we really get into some issues with roadside inspections not having those logbooks up to date. Moving to the next one, the benefits of electronic logbook are that messiness goes away, so that in all cases you're producing a consistent logbook across your entire company. So whether you're one driver or 10 drivers, the logs are all going to be created in the same way and be very neat. If there are errors introduced, there's warnings. So all of that's pointed out, and most commonly known as what a lot of our fleets call it as a spell checker that's built into the logs, because we point them to where there are issues or errors in the logs. Time saving, there's no where am I? I'm going to enter a city and state, so it happens automatically. The GPS puts in the city and state, enters all the vehicle information, etc. And again, just like paper, there's editability. So the benefits are, if I make a mistake, I can make those changes in the electronic logbook world, and there is no previous version to worry about, so it's exactly like paper. The only negative to electronic logbooks are there are some states that do desire or demand a printer, and so in that case, the ability to print, and we're finding that happening less and less, but it can happen. So in the electronic logbook world, although it's all great and easy and clean and brings everything into one simple system for the owner of a fleet or the operator of a fleet, there may be a desire to have a printer in the cab, which could be used for other things as well. And I can go more detail and questions on that. ELDs or AOBRD today, so that move is, the benefits here are, again, you get all of the benefits of the electronic logbook, except one more, an additional one, which is you don't need a printer. Okay, so in that case, when you're an AOBRD or an ELD, you will not need a printer, because the device itself is an acceptable method for presenting the logs at a scale house roadside. It's allowable. The one main issue from an electronic log standpoint that most fleets that we talk to that dislike is really the editing and the limited editing capabilities. Any editing now has to be happen today with AOBRD by the supervisor. There is a history, originals, and kept, and then the driver needs to re-sign those logs. In ELDs, it's very similar, except the driver makes the changes. If it's initiated by the supervisor, then the driver needs to make that signature as well. So the limited editing is really the key thing that we see with ELDs. Okay, so that's the real difference. Has been pros and cons of different types of logging methods. Okay, Matt. So let's just talk about when and what does the ELD mandate do to you, to an operator or an owner of a fleet. The federal government, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association, has mandated the use of electronic logging devices. I mentioned previously that means paper, electronic logs, EOBRs, AOBRDs, all will be going away. So within 2 years, so December 2017, you still have time, but all commercial vehicle drivers who don't fall into allowable exemptions will have to use an ELD for their driver logs, and we'll talk about what those exemptions are. So that means you will need to install a device, an electronic logging device, in all of your vehicles by that time frame, end of December 2017. The drive time for the information comes directly from the vehicle. So what this means is not only is the vehicle information number, the engine on, engine off, engine under power, all of that information coming into the electronic system for data collection, but the drive time is coming directly from the movement of the vehicle. Okay, so is the vehicle moving, then it's a drive time, and that's a line that is not editable. Okay, and if there's any edit to that line, there's a very clear rules around how that happens from a supervisory standpoint. Okay. Let me move this over here. Defining the criteria for what makes an ELD. So there's a mandate guide, a very large guide that talks about what is an ELD and what makes it an ELD, and that's our job. That's the job of companies like BigRoad, and to make sure that we fit with the mandatory requirements of all of the ELD components and the terminology of what an ELD is. And so that's coming again along here as we speak further. Oh, sorry, Matt, go ahead. So let's just review the timelines. So how long do you have to comply? As we mentioned, December 16th, so the end of December, December 17th, but December 16th, the publication date went out. So the official publication for an ELD mandate was published on December 16th of last year, and that put in force a 2-year window to comply with putting electronic logging device in the cab of every commercial vehicle in the United States. So we are now in a 2-year window. Here we are. There is one exception to this 2-year window. If you're running an AOBRD before December 17th, 2015, then you have 2 years of grandfather clause, or 2 additional years that you can run an AOBRD before you need to switch to the ELD system. So I get asked all the time, what does that mean? Like, why would I care? Why wouldn't I just go right to ELD? And why would, if I was running an AOBRD? The main reason is if you've made the investment in an AOBRD, you get a longer period of time to recover that investment. The main differences in the AOBRD, as we covered, versus ELD, or we'll just discuss here, are some of the main things are keeping track of vehicle movement on a regular basis. In an AOBRD, you only record the vehicle location on record of duty status change. So if I go from on duty not driving, let's say, to driving, then I record the location. When I go from driving to on duty not driving, again, then I record the location. And if there was 5 hours between those 2 duty status changes, there's no visibility into that. In the ELD world, as an example, every operating hour or 60 miles, there's actually a breadcrumb drop that's actually part of that visual view. It's part of that view for a roadside officer or enforcement. Okay, so those are some of the main things. There's others, but that's really some of the main points or differences between AOBRD. We're finding, from an industry standpoint, most companies are choosing to go with an AOBRD this year because there's a lot of benefit to going to an AOBRD type solution, and are choosing to move to ELD sometime in late 2018 or even 2019. Okay, Matt. So, great question that always comes up is who will have to comply. So, so let's move forward and take a look who will have to comply. So there's a simple rule of thumb that we like to follow, and we communicate, and that is if you're currently required to maintain logs for your record of duty status, then you will most likely be required to use an ELD device. So simply put, if you're having your drivers complete hours of service logs today, HOS, doing it today, odds are you will need to use an ELD and move to an ELD device. There are some exceptions to this or exemptions, and if Matt goes to the next slide, we'll talk about what those are. So, I'm a single owner operator. Do I need to comply? And yes, there aren't any exemptions today based upon fleet size. So whether you're an owner operator with one truck or your fleet of 5,000, there are no exemptions based upon fleet size at all. So, and the next question comes in, what if I run an older truck that doesn't have any electronic connections in it? Do I have to comply then? And the rule came back that if you're running a vehicle, a truck manufactured prior to year 2000, then you may qualify for the exemption to the ELD. Okay, so it looks like, again, many fleets are saying, hey, I have a lot of vehicles older than 2000, I can just stay on paper. I'm going to talk about that one a little bit further later, maybe in the questions, but that's definitely an opportunity to not use ELD. The local trip is a big question that always comes up, and it's you know, whether my drivers are 100 air mile exempt or not. So do I run local trips? Do I need to comply? There are exemptions based upon. There's no exemption based upon. Oh, that's a typo there. So if you're running.
Yeah, that looks like that's my fault, Terry. I'll take responsibility for that.
Yeah, that's okay. So the answer to that, the right answer to that, is if you're running local trips 100 air mile exempt, you are correct. You do not need to put an ELD device in. But one of the things we learned is that if you're running more than 8 days in a month, then you will need an ELD. If you're so that's another requirement as well. So if you are 100 air mile exempt and never going out of 100 air mile, then you are fine. But the day that you do, then you need to have logs for all the previous days. So let's say a vehicle once out of every 6 days or even 8 days goes more than 100 air mile, then you may need to put an ELD device in. We operate as a driveway towaway operation. Do they need to comply? The answer is no. Yes, it's funny here. Yes, driveway operations can qualify for an exemption. So, but you will not need to have an ELD if you're driveway towaway, as long as it's not your asset. If you're driving your vehicle, your truck, to do driveway towaway, then you will need to have an ELD in place. If you're driving a vehicle that's going to be delivered as part of the delivery, then you will not need to have an exemption. So you will not need to have an ELD. Okay? Pushing on. So it's a great question. Other questions that come up all the time is ELD effects on hours of service by fleets. And realistically, and I think most will agree that for large fleets, it's not really an issue. Most of them are already using some form of a fleet management system. And hours of service compliance, although it's not always done right, is something that they've actually have professionals in place dealing with. So it's really not that big of a deal because there's somebody in place that's dealing with a safety compliance person that's dealing with all of the logs. It really will help those fleets, though, pull it all together into one system if they don't have anything in today. But again, majority of large fleets are already using some sort of telematics system, and pulling all of the hours of service into one ELD-based solution is going to be a fairly simple task, I believe. We believe. Really, where you're looking at it from a small fleet standpoint is most times in small fleets, technology like electronic logs and fleet management is new. So there is a learning curve that will need to be deployed or considered throughout this. But that being said, the difficulty or the concern with learning the new technology and how it applies to you and to your drivers is the opportunity to create new opportunities for them as well. So understanding utilization and real-time access to the drivers, and being more responsive to your customers, and those sorts of things are going to be neat new opportunities, but there's definitely a learning curve in most cases for small fleets to get there. The big question is, well, what about cheating? And there's a concern that, well, if I can't run paper and maybe edit my logs the way I want, well, what am I going to do? And this is true. So the way to look at it is, if there are those situations that are happening, they will soon not be happening. And so that's something to consider. The other side of that is, though, everyone is going to be playing on the same level playing field, and so there's no one advantage for cheating. So in that case, my view of this is that a lot of the miles that are being driven in this case are going to come back and need to be fulfilled by available hours within the ELD guidelines, and that's going to actually create new opportunities for fleets, I believe. The other piece about this is the anti-coercion, and that's been covered in the new rules. And a lot of times drivers aren't cheating because they want to be cheating. They're cheating because the operator is saying, you really have to get this load there. And there's very strict and new rules around this. And again, everyone's playing on the same playing field. So again, that creates those opportunities. So I think the idea of cheating, post 2017 is going to be starting to be removed, and everyone's going to be operating. And the best operators are going to do very well and win in this scenario. Matt? So just talking about, it's funny when we talk about risks and the other side, which is benefits. But we can just touch on that briefly in terms of where we see and hear from fleets that have deployed different methods of electronic data collection for hours of service. And some of the perceived risks are drivers are more likely to get caught cheating and hurting our safety score. And what we see is the exact opposite of that, is that once there's a system in place and logs are audited on a real-time basis and you can see exactly what's going on, in fact, the drivers are being cued throughout the day to show them and help them with the creation of the logs. In all cases, we're actually seeing the safety scores improve. And so I believe most cases, if there are cheating opportunities that exist, falsification opportunities, they kind of go away because the drivers are better educated with technology, like electronic technology, to actually do a better job of completing their logs. So the safety scores we see as a whole have really improved, and we've got a lot of evidence that we can share further on that if anybody would like. Loss of business. Hey, if I can't be creative in terms of how I run my routes, I'm going to lose business. And again, planning is the key here, and I think there are going to be some cases where routes may need to be set up differently, and that is with the shippers as well and the receivers to make sure that these routes can be run. So there's going to be some optimization that's going to have to happen, and it's going to be tough. But again, being everybody's on the same playing field, those receivers or shippers that are keeping you longer than they should are going to have to change their behavior, or their prices are going to go up. Let's touch on cost. It's going to cost a fortune to comply with the mandate. Our goal, and others like BigRoad that have put solutions like this in place, have really been focused on making sure that cost is not a barrier. And I'll say that if you're a fleet that's spending more than $25 a month to put electronic logs in your vehicle, assuming you already have smartphones in the cabs of the truck, then you're probably spending too much. So realistically, those costs are low overall, and if you look at the benefit of not having to collect the paper, store the paper, audit the paper, and deal with all the mistakes, just manpower alone, you're actually saving more than that, as we've seen evidence of many times over. Drivers quitting. That was what we heard a year ago. We're not hearing that anymore. We are getting some, operators say, I'm just going to quit the industry, and some drivers saying, I'm out. But time after time, what we really see is drivers that move from paper to electronic logs, not AOBRD yet, but just to electronic logs, really see the benefits of having, the this creation or these applications, helping them create their paperwork throughout the day, save them a lot of time and save them a lot of mistakes. So that one I'm seeing less and less of an issue as we're going forward with electronic logs being rolled out. Matt? So key things for you to consider are, really what is it that you need to do to actually comply, and what should you do in a logical period of time? And I think that now is a good time to actually research and evaluate. Take a look at what's out there, what's going to fit your business, and what options are available. And again, because you have some time to do that. So next piece would really be to create a transition plan, and really look at the best method for how you would go to a full launch of an electronic logging device in your vehicle. Sorry, inside of your driver community. And so switching to an ELD can be really simple. It can be very simple. But again, the rollout, depending on the size of your operation, should be considered, and really break it down into a couple of small steps before you jump into it. And then really start. And I mean, the drivers that like moving to electronic logs, which will be most of them, will really help you with that transition for the rest of the drivers, and roll out in a staged manner to meet your compliance window. But 100% roll out of electronic logs in a speed that has never had an electronic data collection before. Seeing transition from
Terry, you're cutting out a little on us. Could you maybe just repeat that last few sentences for us?
Okay, start again. So then the next step is really just begin and really get a few of your drivers using their advocates, because those are the ones that will really sell it across your organization. And seeing the transition from running a paper-based organization to electronic, and just that how efficient it becomes is awesome to see. So we really get excited by that, and most of the fleets that we work with moving to.
I'm going to sneak in here, Terry. You're still pretty broken up on us. I'm not sure if you changed anything you were doing at the moment, but you're getting sort of a fuzzy sound. So just maybe take a couple seconds and see if that goes away.
Yeah, I can tell if you want the phone, Matt.
Yeah, maybe if you want to try, Terry, we'll just take a 2-second break here while you call in, and we'll switch that up.
Okay. Do you want to maybe answer one of the questions as we're going along?
Yeah, I'll maybe while you're calling in, I'll go through some of the questions that we've had coming in and give a little bit of an answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the questions we've had coming in has been about how this is going to work with rental systems. Rental trucks, in terms of someone going and renting a truck for use. What we expect is that there's probably two scenarios here. Either the rental companies are likely going to start providing their own ELD system that you can use when you rent the vehicle. The other option would also be that they are going to expect you to come with a ELD of your own to use. In that situation, your best bet is to get an ELD system that is simple and easy to install. Not to toot our own horn, but BigRoad with DashLink definitely fits that bill, as we're simple to move between different trucks with ease. Terry, you happen to be back yet? All right, I think Terry's still just. Oh yeah, I can see that he's switching over to phone now. So. We'll go over with another one. One of the big questions that came in, and Terry kind of touched on it earlier, we get a lot of very specific questions that are along the lines of where we only have 4 trucks, or I'm a single user, a single owner operator. So how does this affect me? Well, the real answer to that is that there are no exemptions based on size. So even single owner operators, you're going to have to be using an ELD when the time comes. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. There's no exemption based on size. So don't forget that. Don't think that you're going to be exempt based on something that you're not sure of.
Okay, I made it back.
All right, there we go. So, yeah, I just answered a couple questions there, Terry. One about rental trucks and how that's going to work with ELDs, and then another just reiterating the fact that small fleets, doesn't matter your size, you're going to have to be using an ELD.
Yeah, great. We actually see a couple things too. I mean, it's just touching your rental truck scenario for a second. Even let's say that you have a vehicle that stays 100 air mile exempt and sometimes goes out longer than 100 air mile, and I don't want to put an ELD in, and now it's going to run a route greater than 100 air mile. It's very simple just to have an ELD in the office, take that out, plug it into the truck, and use it for that occasion. And so you can run electronic logs as an example, and then the truck can just become ELD. So we see those kind of scenarios happening all the time. It will happen more in the future because of just the way that this trucking industry works. So yeah, we make sure that in this industry, the solution that you choose should be very easy for you to install or remove into the cab of the vehicle. Okay.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
So I think you just want to maybe, I know you started sort of getting, it was a weird electronic sound right when you got into the start section of this slide. So if you maybe want to just go over that again for everyone real quick.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. By start, what I mean is when you choose those drivers that begin with the drivers that will transition the smoothest, and they really become the smoothest, but they become the advocates for the system. And what you're going to find is drivers really like this technology. It sounds funny to say it, but they really like it once they start using it. And you get a few of those drivers using it, they're going to be really helping sell that to the rest of the drivers. And then from that standpoint, depending on the size of your organization, of your fleet, roll it out in the manner that kind of fits your business. But I mean, it just allows you to grow into it easily. But I do want to say that seeing this transition from paper all the way from paper to fully electronic, and the benefits that fleets are seeing, and that their logs are received on a daily basis, or a real-time basis, I should say, and audited in an organized fashion that can be reported on and viewed and discussed and available is amazing. So that change is exciting to see, and something that is going to sound scary to a lot of fleets right now. But what you'll find, it's not that scary at the end of the day, and the reward you'll see out of it is going to be exceptional. Okay. Next slide, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, so this slide just really talks about, gets a little bit more into BigRoad now. So I just want to touch on it for a second. But what you're really looking at is a product, a BigRoad product that's in two pieces here. One is that black piece, which is the engine connected, and everyone knows there's a diagnostic port in the cab of a vehicle. It's going to be either 9 pins, 6 pins, or even square, like in a car, like OBD2. So it's going to be one of those, and that's really the most important thing to know when you're ordering it, is what is it that you have in your vehicle, that port that you have in your vehicle, and making sure the right cable goes with it. The BigRoad solution for DashLink is what we call the engine connected version. Is all it is a box, but it's got a specific cable that you use to connect to the different type of port that's in your truck. Today, that's 395 compliant, to all the OBRD standards. All of the software will run into the new ELD mandate, and so there's no issues there. We do connect to the engine via Bluetooth. So that box that's connected with the cable to your engine is connected via Bluetooth. So having Bluetooth open on the phone with the BigRoad mobile application running allows you to connect and work in a compliant fashion. After that, automatically all your logs are tracked. The logs are created and tracks all of your driving time, all of your non-driving time, all of your documents, etc. So basically, with that small little black box connected in Bluetooth, we basically eliminate the need for paper 100%. Okay. Moving on, Matt. Okay, so basically, this is our one chance to talk about BigRoad. BigRoad is your answer because, and we spent a lot of time working with the driver community, with drivers, and have created a technology that the drivers really like to use. It's simple. It gives them all of the information in easy to find places, and which makes, again, the deployment cost of this solution very low. If your drivers have phones in the cab of the vehicle now, you can use their phones, you can use your own phone, you can put a tablet in your vehicle. It's really up to you how you want to deploy it. There is something really elegant about seeing a tablet installed in the cab of a truck and seeing the driver just go in and sign into it. And depending upon your operation, that driver can use that tablet in the evening, for watching TV if he would like as well, or emailing. So there's neat ways of deploying, but what we want to do is make it really simple. Again, from all the different methods of getting a device into the cab. The neat thing about having a tablet is if it ever fails, then you can always use the driver's phone. It really doesn't matter. Any device will connect into the cab via Bluetooth, into the engine, I should say. We are focused on safety and compliance, and so what that means for smaller fleets, we have your back. We're there for you. If there's any issues that you have, from a log audit standpoint, from a where are my logs, how do I use this, we spend a lot of time and attention with our support group to be available. We're available if you get a citation. We're available if you're going through an audit. We're available just for training and helping your drivers. Really minimal effort for value. Really what you're looking for is a smartphone, the little black box that connects to the engine, and we put you on a monthly subscription fee, and it's very simple. Provide fleet managers and drivers the tools that work together. So this creates a great opportunity for the drivers to have a good, efficient conversation with their managers, their driver managers, and share and improve. So everybody actually works very nicely together, and BigRoad provides you the tools in easy to find places to do that. Okay. Okay, Matt.
Are you seeing the next slide, Terry? It should be up for you.
Yeah, it just came up now. Okay. So I'll just, before we get into questions, just say the one thing that I've messaged to most people I talk to is that there should be no risk in your decision here. And I think getting started with BigRoad or with anybody is just try something. And pick a driver, two drivers, or all your drivers, it doesn't matter. And there shouldn't be a cost associated with you trying out this type of solution, electronic logging solution. And I think you should just try it. And and again, not just with BigRoad, but any solution that you want to look at, just go out, download it, put it on your smartphone, and actually start seeing what this can do for your business. And run it as a pilot and see where you go. So I think if you want to look at BigRoad for that, we would like to do that with you. And we make it very easy for you to do that. And you can call us at that phone number, 888-305-8777, or you can email us at sales@bigroad.com, or just go to bigroad.com, and it's very self-explanatory in terms of what you could do to actually try BigRoad with no risk, with no cost. And we want to make it easy for you. So I think at that point, Matt, are we going to go to some questions?
Yeah, we're going to start answering some questions. Before we start, I will just point out that if you check in the chat box, I did just send out, it's a link which will take you to, if you're interested, we have a 30-day free trial available. So if you go to that link, you will be able to sign up for that trial. So once again, before we get right into the questions here, I'd just like to mention that we do have a lot of them, so we probably won't be able to get to all of them, in which case we will be posting a blog post with a video recording of this webinar. We've also had a few people ask for copies of the presentation itself, so we'll go ahead and we'll make that available online as well, and we'll be sending out an email in the next few days that lets you know where you can access everything. So we'll start in with the questions now. And Terry, one of the big questions that we seem to get a lot, and it sort of revolves around the terminology you talked about at the start, is what is it that's going to be mandatory? In particular, we're getting asked if the BigRoad electronic logbook will be enough come December 2017.
So will it be enough December 2017 electronic logbook?
Yeah,
I was confused.
So they're just asking if the app itself, so just BigRoad with no engine connection, is going to be enough.
After 2017.
Right.
Well, it depends if you're short haul. So if you're required to do hours of service reporting and 4-line log, not with no exemptions, no, it will not be. You will need to have an engine connection.
Great.
So you will need to move to at minimum an AOBRD, that AOBRD version I was referring to, which is an engine connection with a Bluetooth connection to the smartphone, and we'll have to run AOBRD. You can run that for 2 years, and then again you could just switch your software with BigRoad to ELD, but that's definitely electronic logs. Unless you're going to stay short haul exempt, you will need to move to an engine connected solution.
Another question that's coming up is in terms of how BigRoad reacts if, say, the cell phone loses data service while the driver is driving.
Yeah, no problem there at all. So basically, our box has a GPS in it as well, and so we actually are recording vehicle movement even without the cell phone. So we compare both. So the smartphone has a GPS in it, and the box connection to the engine has a GPS in it. So GPS in both areas, and so. If you lose a data connection, that's not really a big issue because the GPSs are still tracking, and when that data connection comes back, all of the data is synchronized, so you don't lose any data at all. And so it was designed with that in mind, knowing full well data connections do get lost.
Great. Another question which you touched on earlier in the presentation is about the requirement for a printer once someone moves to an engine connected log.
Uh-huh.
And just if they're free to not have that anymore.
No, it's still in the regs today, but it's being asked less and less. And realistically, it's only a few states where it's a concern. But again, we have thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of users using electronic logs daily with no issues at all. It's a potential that can happen, but again, less so now. But it's still a potential issue. Yes, that could be asked.
And just pointing out too that when you do switch to an AOBRD or an ELD, you no longer need that printer because of the regulations allow you to, if it's engine connected, not have the printer.
That's correct. 100% for sure. Yep.
So. Terry, you also talked about this one a bit, but there's people looking just for clarification on what happens if you're normally a local area driver, but you occasionally go outside and drive, say, a long haul every so often, a few a month maybe.
Right. Yeah, if that's the case, if you have to do logs more than 8 times in a month, then you're required to do logs. So there is a hard limit on that of 8. Okay, so once or twice a month, you're going to be fine. Sorry, I just got that wrong. Excuse me. I was looking into the sky. If you are driving out of longer than 100 air mile exempt and you go outside of that jurisdiction or that area, you are required to move to ELD every time. Okay? So for sure, and so then you're going to need to have all your previous records in order for that as well to support the ELD results. If you are, my other reference was, if today you don't have to do logs because you don't drive more than 8 times on a monthly basis, then you'll be fine. But if you are driving more than 8 times, you will. Okay. So I answered 2 questions there.
Another question is about mileage tracking, and if BigRoad in particular allows you to track mileage based on drivers of trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been doing that for a number of years now. So we actually provide a report for your state mile reporting that's actually gathered and available in a report in our back-end systems, and so you can go in and pull those reports as required to support your state mileage reporting. But yes, most definitely. In the ELD rollout, that's even going to become more robust. But the answer is yes.
Another question is about how ELDs react to situations such as being stopped in traffic, say on a highway that's gridlock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how do they react? Well, if the vehicle stops moving, it's going to go to what's called on duty, not driving. And I guess that's probably what the question is do you have the ability to do that? And so if you're gridlock and stuck in traffic, I mean, you do have the ability even to go to off duty, right? So, but as soon as the vehicle starts rolling again, it will move back into driving because it's being that movement of the vehicle is coming from the engine itself. So again, the ELD are reporting that the engine's on, the engine hours are being running, but you're not moving, and the ability to select on duty, not driving, or off duty will become available.
The next question deals with sometimes when a driver's out, they want to drive from wherever they drop a load to their hotel for the night, and it sort of deals with personal conveyance. And the question is really, how is personal conveyance handled with BigRoad and ELDs?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a so there is a selection today in AOBRD. There's a selection for personal conveyance, and so that one comes up a lot, and we tend to get involved with our fleet customers on a regular basis with this one. So our technology solution today can support that. You will basically determine, the driver will determine if he is he or she is running in personal conveyance mode, and again, there's rules around that, right? You can't have a load, you can't be working, right? So, but other than that, you actually would select personal conveyance and you would go about your personal trip. The systems need to report from an ELD standpoint. We'll report on how much personal conveyance is going on. So if there's somebody abusing that, or there's a process put in place, so you have a program for personal conveyance, here's our policy, this is how you will use personal conveyance, and as long as that's being followed, you're okay. But if you find your drivers are abusing that personal conveyance policy, and you as a fleet operator are ignoring that, there's a potential issue down the road. So that's the best answer I can give you, is to have a good, strict policy on personal conveyance.
The next question deals with what devices a company, if they're going to be using DashLink, what devices we recommend they use with the DashLink.
Yeah, we don't really recommend that. We actually work with the fleets to work with what they want. We do believe that it's important to provide choice for the fleet. Some fleets like the drivers to show up with their own smartphone. And it really depends, is this an employee-based fleet or is it an owner-operator-based fleet? And if it's an owner-operator-based fleet, you can ask the driver to show up with, an Android device or, an iOS device. And that will be the device that they'll use, or don't care. Right? And the other option is say, just show up with a smartphone and download here. So that's what we typically see, or give that flexibility. So we don't really recommend. As I mentioned a little earlier, though, there is something very nice and professional looking with a tablet mounted in a truck, and when you're going through a scale house or getting pulled over to show that nice big screen to the enforcement officer, it goes a long way, and it goes a long way in just the professionalism of the fleet operation as well. So I prefer, what I like is a nice, bigger screen, an 8 or a 9-inch screen on the cab of a truck, and it also gives you the opportunity, if you're a fleet operator, to use that for other things. For load information, for data collection of other items, like, hey, I want proof of deliveries, I want to send them a document. They can open it up and read it. It's very easy. You can sign on there. It just gives me a nice user interface. So tablets are what I prefer, but again, we don't really recommend, because we want to work with what the fleet has. So the only the only requirement I want to mention is that Android or iOS devices, so Apple or Android, in the cab of a truck.
The next question sort of refers to when you're using DashLink, so you're connected with Bluetooth, what happens if a driver leaves the truck? How does the connection reestablish? What are the effects when the driver has to leave the truck for a while?
Yeah, no issue there at all. Just like Bluetooth, Bluetooth for other items, like we've all used, whether it's the cab of your car or it's your personal headset or whatever it is whenever you get within proximity, it will reestablish that connection. So we keep track of those connections when they disconnect and connect, and that's all reported on in our systems. And so the driver, we expect the driver to leave with his device. He'll walk out. He may do things with it. During his EDVIR, he could walk around the vehicle, take pictures of, maybe a defect on the vehicle or the trailer.
and use that and get back in the vehicle, and it'll reconnect to the dash link. And that's part of our technology solution. Is we needed to make that very robust so that there was no connection issues with Bluetooth as the devices are coming in and out of the vehicle.
The next question is a concern on vehicle size that require ELDs. So the basic question here is if a pickup truck is going to require an ELD. I would assume that would mean if the pickup is towing, but the question doesn't specify, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is the answer. You hit it, Matt. So if it's towing and it's a weight restriction, then the vehicle may need an ELD depending on the weight of the load and the type of the trailer.
Yeah, I guess.
So again,
that would sort of fall in line with the current commercial vehicle weight restrictions that go hand in hand with having to keep a log, right, Terry?
That's correct. Yep. And same as passenger vehicles as well, right? Like if I'm a courier or coach, right? Or coach vehicle.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end, but I think one last question that sort of is important for us just in what we pride ourselves on is how easy is it to move an ELD, Dashlink in particular, between various vehicles if you have to use multiple vehicles?
Yeah, very easy actually. We make it that easy. So what happens is I think the best providers in this industry are going to keep it simple and easy to use. And so if you were to disconnect a dash link in our case and move it from vehicle 1 to vehicle 2 and you reconnect it, when you reconnect it, it's going to interrogate that vehicle and know what VIN it is. And if it's been used before, it's going to come up with that vehicle number. So if it's truck number 2, it's going to come up and say VIN number truck number 2 and interrogate all the aspects like the odometer and everything that you need for ELD. So that problem takes care of itself in the way we actually engineer these solutions, and we expect them to move from vehicle to vehicle, and we expect them to move from vehicle to vehicle without any complexity like anything called an activation. And we're having to call anybody, like at a BigRoad, for an example, say, hey, BigRoad, please move this device vehicle to vehicle. That will never happen. And so that's an important solution point. So you will be able to move these devices vehicle to vehicle from a broken down vehicle to a rental vehicle. Let's say that you need to do that, you just pull it out and pop it in the next one. The way we design these systems are the drivers can install them, the drivers can deinstall them, and everything is there in place so that they can do that very efficiently without any issues at all.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for us. We're getting to the end of our hour. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. Again, we will be providing a recording of this in our blog and answering all the questions that we weren't able to get to today. So we will send out an email with that. So just keep your eye out for that in the next few days. And once again, thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for attending. If you need anything, you know how to get hold of us. Thank you.